There lived two friends, Emma and Ella. They were the best of friends and had been since childhood. Everyone in the village admired Ella's stunning beauty, and she was known for having a good heart. Emma, on the other hand, was also beautiful, but not quite as stunning as Ella. As they grew older, Emma began to feel a pang of jealousy whenever men admired Ella. She couldn't understand why people couldn't admire her just as much. Ella, however, never seemed to notice the attention she received, and Emma felt like she was living in her shadow. One day Emma turned to Ella and said, "You know, Ella, sometimes I feel like you're so lucky to be admired by everyone, but at the same time, I feel like you're missing out on all the fun." Ella smiled and shook her head. "I'm happy just the way I am, Emma. I don't need all the attention to feel special." Emma felt a mix of emotions. She couldn't help but feel a little envious. As the years passed, Emma and Ella grew older and started receiving suitors. But it seemed like fate was playing a cruel joke on Emma. While Ella's suitors were rich, handsome, and young, Emma's were old men or already married men looking for a second wife. Ella would often visit Emma, sharing stories about the men who came to her father's house to ask for her hand in marriage. She'd tell Emma about their wealth, their good looks, and their charming personalities. But Ella would always end her stories by saying that she hadn't found her perfect match yet. Emma would listen to Ella's stories, feeling a pang of jealousy. "You're so lucky, Ella," Emma would say. "Why are you rejecting them? I wish I could be as lucky as you are, receiving young and handsome men as suitors. But instead, I get old men and married men who want a second wife." Ella would just smile and say, "Marriage isn't just about finding a rich or handsome man, Emma. I'm waiting for my perfect match, someone who loves me for who I am." But deep down, Emma was seething with jealousy. She wished she could be in Ella's shoes, receiving attention from young and handsome men. She felt like fate was unfair, favoring Ella with all the good things in life. As they shared their secrets and stories, Emma couldn't help but feel a little resentful towards her friend. After a while, Ella stood up to leave, saying goodbye to Emma as she headed back to her house. Emma watched her go, feeling a mix of emotions, jealousy, and a hint of resentment towards her friend. Emma stormed into her father's hut, slamming the door behind her. She sat down, her anger and frustration boiling over. "Why is it always Ella?" she muttered to herself. "Why does she always get the good things in life?" She thought back to their childhood, when people would always comment on Ella's good character, her beauty, and her kindness. Even as they grew older, men would admire Ella and call out to her as they passed by the village square. Now that they were of marriageable age, Ella was receiving suitors who were rich, handsome, and young. Meanwhile, Emma was stuck with old men and married men who wanted a second wife. What kind of person is she? Emma wondered, her mind consumed by jealousy. Is she possessed or something? Ah, no problem. I'll deal with her. She thinks I'm not the same fool she's always deceived, using her witchcraft to bring herself favor. I'm not that person anymore. Emma's anger turned to bitterness as she thought about her own situation. I'm not even getting anything, not even a good suitor to hold my hand. I know she's possessed. Her beauty is not ordinary. She's a mermaid, and she's using her witchcraft to support her creator. Emma's eyes narrowed as she took an oath. Ella, you're my friend, my childhood friend. But if you marry before me, if you receive a better husband than me, I'll personally deal with you. With that, Emma stormed out of her father's hut. Her heart consumed by anger, jealousy, and a hint of evil intentions. As time passed, Ella continued to receive suitors from all over, including from different kingdoms. They were all handsome, charming, and wealthy, but Ella rejected every single one of them. She told her parents that she hadn't found her match yet, and she was determined to wait for the right person. Emma, on the other hand, was still receiving old men as suitors. Some of them had never married before, while others had married but their wives hadn't been able to bear children. There were even some who were looking for a second wife. Emma rejected them all, saying that she hadn't met her match yet, but deep down, Emma was seething with anger and jealousy. She couldn't understand why Ella got all the good suitors while she was stuck with old men. She felt like Ella was rubbing it in her face, and it was hard for her to hide her true feelings. One day, Ella came to Emma and told her about all the suitors she had rejected again. Emma listened, pretending to be happy for her friend, but inside, she was boiling with jealousy. "You should tell them to come to me," Emma said, trying to sound casual. "I'll marry them. I'm sure they'd be happy with me," Ella laughed. "Don't rush into marriage, Emma. When the right time comes, God will send us the ones we love, the ones who will be our heart's desire." But Emma was too far gone to listen to reason. She was consumed by her jealousy, and she couldn't help but think that Ella was somehow sabotaging her chances with good suitors. As she smiled and pretended to be happy for her friend, Emma was secretly plotting her revenge. "All this while she has been the one pushing old men my way, and she'll be the one receiving the young suitors," Emma thought to herself. "No problem, I'll know how to handle this," but for now, Emma just smiled and hugged her friend, pretending that everything was okay. One day, Emma and Ella were walking through the village square when a handsome young prince from a neighboring kingdom approached them. He was charming and courteous, and Emma couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy as he focused his attention on Ella. "Hi, beautiful one," the prince said, smiling at Ella. "How are you doing?" Ella replied calmly, and the prince asked her name and if she was single. Ella responded gently, and the prince was immediately smitten. As they exchanged pleasantries, Emma grew increasingly angry. She felt like the prince was ignoring her and only had eyes for Ella. After a while, the prince asked Ella for directions to her house, and Ella kindly provided them. The prince said he would visit her soon and bid her farewell. As the prince walked away, Ella turned to Emma and smiled. But Emma was seething with anger. What did he want? Emma asked gruffly. Ella smiled again. "Nothing, my friend. He's just attracted to me, and he wants to get to know me better." Emma's face turned red with anger. "Better for you to reject him, just like you've been rejecting all the other handsome young men and princes." But Ella just smiled and said, "I think I like this one." Emma's anger boiled over. "You like who?" she asked, her voice rising. Ella replied calmly, "The prince. I think I love him, but I'm not sure yet. Time will tell." As they parted ways, Emma's heart was filled with anger and jealousy. She couldn't believe that Ella had caught the eye of yet another handsome young man, while she was still stuck with old men as suitors. Deep down, Emma's resentment towards Ella grew, and she began to plot her revenge. A week after, the prince visited Ella at her home. They started a romantic relationship. Sometimes the prince would visit Ella, and sometimes Ella would visit the prince. As they spent more time together, they fell deeply in love. The prince was smitten with Ella's beauty, kindness, and intelligence. Ella, on the other hand, was drawn to the prince's charming personality, wealth, and power. They were perfect for each other, and their love continued to grow with each passing day. One day, Ella visited her friend Emma's house, excitedly telling her that she had found the man she had been waiting for. Emma was taken aback, surprised and shocked by the news. "Who is he?" Emma asked, trying to sound casual. "It's the prince we met at the village square," Ella replied, beaming with happiness. Emma's eyes widened in shock. "The prince? Are you serious?" she asked, trying to process the information. Ella nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, we've been communicating since then, and I've fallen deeply in love with him. I think he loves me too." Emma's face turned pale as she struggled to hide her true feelings. Inside, she was seething with jealousy and envy. How does she do it? Emma thought to herself. What does she have that I don't? Why do all the handsome and rich men fall for her, while I'm stuck with old men as suitors? Ella noticed Emma's distant expression and asked. Emma, are you okay? Emma forced a smile and replied, yes, I'm okay. But deep down, she was burning with jealousy and resentment towards her friend. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Ella and the prince's relationship continued to blossom, and their love for each other grew stronger with each passing day. Finally, the day arrived when the prince came with his parents to Ella's parents' house to ask for her hand in marriage. Ella's parents were overjoyed, and they happily accepted the prince's proposal. The day for the traditional marriage was fixed, and Ella was ecstatic. She couldn't wait to spend the rest of her life with the prince. As soon as the prince and his parents left, Ella joyfully ran to Emma's house to share the good news with her best friend. Emma! Emma! Ella shouted, her excitement palpable. Emma stood up, surprised to see her friend so thrilled. What's going on? Emma asked, curiosity etched on her face. Ella rushed to her, beaming with happiness. I have the most amazing news to tell you. The prince and I are getting married. The traditional marriage has been fixed. Emma's face fell, and she looked like she had been punched in the gut. But she quickly recovered, forcing a smile onto her face. Congratulations, Ella. I'm so happy for you, Emma said, trying to sound sincere. But deep down, she was seething with jealousy and anger. As Emma's anger and jealousy boiled over, her face twisted into a scowl. Ella was taken aback, surprised by her friend's sudden change in demeanor. Emma, my friend, what's going on? Ella asked, concern etched on her face. Aren't you happy for me? Emma's eyes flashed with anger. How can I be happy for you? She spat. You're the only one who gets all the good suitors. Now you're going to marry the richest prince in the kingdom, and you expect me to be happy? I'm stuck with old men as suitors, not even a young man for once. Ella tried to calm her down, placing a gentle hand on her arm. My girlfriend, don't be angry. Sometimes things don't go as planned, but I'm sure the gods will provide someone you love. Just like I love my prince. Emma's expression turned skeptical. You think so? She asked, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Ella nodded enthusiastically. Yes, I think so. I believe one day the gods will put a smile on your face, but Emma's anger and jealousy had already consumed her. As Ella took her leave, Emma seethed with resentment, her mind racing with ways to stop the traditional marriage. No, I will never allow this to happen, Emma muttered to herself. I'll find a way to stop this marriage. I won't sit back and watch her marry that charming prince. He's mine, and mine alone. Emma's laughter was cold and menacing, sending shivers down her own spine. She was determined to sabotage Ella's happiness, no matter the cost. Emma's fury and anger consumed her, and she spent the entire day crying and wishing she was the one getting married to the handsome and rich prince. Her anger and jealousy boiled over, and she couldn't hold it anymore. She ran to the bush, seeking out the evil tree that was rumored to have the power to harm others. The tree was well known in the village, and people whispered about its dark magic. Emma rushed to the tree, crying and wailing as she begged for its help. My best friend Ella is getting married before me, she sobbed. I don't want that marriage to hold. I want the prince to marry me, not Ella. The tree seemed to stir, its branches creaking ominously. What do you want to do to her? The tree asked in a low, raspy voice. Emma's eyes gleamed with malice. I want to turn her into a snake on her traditional marriage day. The tree nodded its branches. I can help you with that. Come back on the day of the traditional marriage, and I will give you something to harm her. Emma's face lit up with a wicked grin. Thank you, evil tree, she cackled. I'll be back. With a spring in her step, Emma left the bush and returned home, feeling a sense of wicked satisfaction. She couldn't wait to ruin Ella's special day and claim the prince for herself. As the traditional marriage of Ella is fast approaching, she visited Emma to inform her that she wanted her to be one of her bridesmaids, also known as aso-ebe girls. Emma pretended to be honored, but deep down, she was plotting her evil. Ella also told her that she would come to her house early in the morning to help with cooking and preparation. Emma remembered that she had to meet the evil tree on the day of the traditional marriage. The tree had instructed her to come straight from her house. Emma thought for a moment, trying to come up with an excuse. "Ella, my friend, I'm sorry, but I won't be able to make it," Emma said, trying to sound sincere. "I'm the only person in my parents' house. And I have to cook for them and put things in order before coming to your house." Ella was surprised and asked Emma why she couldn't just sacrifice that one day for her. But Emma refused, saying that she had too many things to do at home. Ella, being the kind-hearted person she was, didn't take Emma's refusal personally. "If you insist, no problem," Ella said. "But please try to come on time so that you can follow me as one of my aso-ebe girls." Emma promised to be there on time. As soon as Ella left, Emma sat alone and cackled wickedly. "That day, I will turn you into a snake," Emma said to herself. "Bet me if I don't do it, that means I am no longer Emma." Emma's laughter sent shivers down her own spine. And she couldn't wait to carry out her evil. The day of Ella's traditional marriage finally arrived, and Ella was busy preparing with her other aso-ebe girls at her father's house. Meanwhile, Emma was in her own father's house, preparing her own evil thoughts. As the ceremony was about to commence, Emma dressed up in her aso-ebe clothes and went straight to the evil tree, just as they had discussed. She told the tree that she was ready to go to her friend's traditional marriage and asked for the evil charm that the tree had promised to give her. The evil tree cackled wickedly and asked Emma to pluck one of its leaves. Emma gently plucked the leaf, and the tree instructed her to go straight to Ella's house, without talking to anyone. "And touch Ella with the leaf, believe me, she will turn into a snake immediately," the evil tree promised. Emma thanked the tree and left, eager to carry out her evil plan. The evil tree called out to her once again, "Remember, immediately she turns into a snake, you must return the leaf to me. If you don't, you might turn into a snake yourself." Emma nodded, knowing the risks, but she was too far gone to turn back now. "I promise I will return the leaf," she said, and continued on her way to Ella's house, the evil leaf clutched in her hand. As soon as Emma arrived at Ella's house, she walked straight to the bedroom where Ella was being prepared for the traditional marriage. She didn't greet anyone, despite the fact that people were looking at her with curiosity. Emma walked up to Ella and placed the evil leaf on her shoulder. Suddenly, Ella let out a blood-curdling scream and started transforming into a snake. The girls in the room were shocked and started shouting, frightened by what they were seeing. People rushed into the room, asking what was happening, and soon the whole compound was in chaos. Ella, now a snake, slithered all over the floor, causing panic among the guests. Emma, on the other hand, was hiding in the corner of the house, laughing and watching the commotion she had caused. She had forgotten the evil tree's instruction to return the leaf immediately after Ella turned into a snake. As the guests continued to murmur and point fingers, Emma's mother cried bitterly, asking the gods why this had to happen on such a special day. The atmosphere was tense, with people throwing accusations and insults at each other. Meanwhile, Emma was still hiding, enjoying the chaos she had unleashed. She was too caught up in her own wickedness to realize that she had just sealed her own fate. Emma's mother continued to wail, while Ella, still in snake form, slithered around the compound. Just then, the prince, his father, and some community leaders, accompanied by a chief priest, arrived at the scene. Emma, still hiding, saw the prince and became ecstatic. Yes, the prince will now see that his wife-to-be has turned into a snake, she thought to herself. He'll definitely choose me now. When the prince arrived, he was met with an eerie silence. He asked why everyone was so calm, and where his bride was. Emma's mother, still crying, pointed at the snake. The prince and his father were shocked. "What is this? How did a snake get into the compound?" they asked. Emma's mother refused to let them harm the snake, revealing that it was actually Ella who had mysteriously turned into a snake while dressing up for the traditional marriage. The king, the prince, and the community leaders were stunned. They didn't know what to say or do. Just then, the chief priest spoke up. "Emma turning into a snake doesn't mean she's inherently evil or has the power to transform. It's someone she trusted, someone she considered a friend, has betrayed her and turned her into a snake." The crowd turned to look at the chief priest, shocked by his words. Emma's mother, father, the prince, and the king looked at each other, wondering who could have committed such a heinous act. As soon as Emma heard the chief priest's words, she remembered the evil tree's instruction to return the leaf immediately after Ella turned into a snake. Panicked, Emma ran out from her hiding place, trying to escape the scene. The chief priest saw her and called out, "Hey, young girl, Ella's best friend, please come back here." But Emma refused, trying to make a run for it. The chief priest used his magical powers to draw Emma back to the scene. Emma struggled, but she was no match for the chief priest's powers. She was dragged back to where everyone was standing. The chief priest demanded, "Undo what you did to your best friend, or else I will unleash the anger of the gods upon you." But Emma denied any involvement, saying, "I didn't do anything to her. I just came in and she turned into a snake." Emma's mother, the prince, and everyone else were shocked, looking at Emma with a mix of confusion and suspicion. The chief priest asked again, "Where did you get that evil leaf that you're holding in your hand?" Emma tried to cover, saying, "It's not an evil leaf. I just found it on the floor and was going to throw it away." The chief priest laughed, saying, "Undo what you have done to your friend, or else I unleash the anger of the gods upon you." But Emma continued to deny any wrongdoing, saying, "I didn't do anything to her. I just came in and found her like that." The chief priest's patience was wearing thin, and he angrily shouted, "Young lady, undo what you did, or else I unleash the anger of the gods upon you right now." Emma continued to deny any involvement in Ella's transformation, but the chief priest's patience had worn thin. With a flick of her wrist, the chief priest used her magical powers to lift Emma off the ground and slam her back down. Emma was frightened, and she began to confess. She knelt down, tears streaming down her face, and begged for forgiveness. "Please, villagers, forgive me. Especially Ella's parents. I was consumed by jealousy. I've been jealous of Ella since we were children." The villagers were shocked, and Emma's confession only added to the chaos. "I was jealous of all the attention she received, of her beauty, of the rich and charming suitors she attracted, while I was stuck with old men as suitors." Emma's parents were horrified, and they shouted at her, condemning her actions. The villagers joined in, calling her names and warning her of the consequences of her actions. "You'll turn into a snake," some shouted. "You'll die a shameful death," others cried. Emma wept, pleading for forgiveness as Ella, still in snake form, slithered through the crowd, seemingly oblivious to the commotion. The chief priest stood tall, her eyes blazing with anger, as she declared, "Emma, you have brought shame upon yourself and your family. You must face the consequences of your actions." Ella's mother rushed to the chief priest, crying and begging her to transform her daughter back into a human. The prince also pleaded with the chief priest, asking him to help his queen-to-be. The chief priest smiled and turned to Emma, who was still holding the evil leaf. "You still have the evil leaf that you used to transform your friend into a snake?" Emma nodded shamefully. The chief priest explained that if Emma had returned the leaf as instructed by the evil tree, Ella would have remained a snake forever. But since Emma still had the leaf, she could undo the spell. However, there was a disadvantage. The chief priest revealed that if Emma transformed Ella back into a human being, Emma would take her place as a snake and remain that way forever. The villagers gasped in shock. Emma cried and begged the chief priest to find another solution, but the chief priest insisted that there was no other way. Emma, still holding the evil leaf, was pushed by the chief priest to transform Ella back into a human being. As soon as Emma touched the leaf to Ella, Ella transformed back into a beautiful human being. But immediately, Emma felt a strange sensation and started to transform into a snake. As Emma slithered away as a snake, the villagers were shocked and frightened. The chief priest cast a spell, commanding Emma to return to the source of her evil. Emma obediently slithered back to the evil tree, where she had plucked the evil leaf. There, she remained forever, trapped in her serpentine form. Meanwhile, Ella and the handsome prince got married that very day, surrounded by the joyful villagers. The celebration was filled with laughter and happiness. Ella and the prince lived happily ever after. They had children and grew old together. They became a beloved couple in the kingdom, known for their kindness and love. In contrast, Emma grew bigger and bigger every day, transforming into a massive python under the evil tree. She became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers of jealousy and the importance of kindness and compassion. And so, the story of Ella and Emma served as a reminder to the villagers of the power of good and evil, and the consequences of evil actions.